Hola amigos, muy buenos días, bienvenidos a una nueva edición del Maps Talk. En esta ocasión nos engalana la presencia de Claudionor Coelho Jr,
Sí.
quien es el Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer. O sea, nos vamos a divertir mucho porque vamos a hablar mucho de algo que a mí me apasiona personalmente, ¿no? Bom dia.
Bom dia.
Good morning. Good morning. We're going to do this in English. My English, my bad English, but let's try to communicate better now. Okay. How long have you been with Zscaler?
It's a very good question. I have been with this Zscaler. I think this week is going to be my first year.
Okay. Yes, I think Zscaler is also a new brand for us. We believe there's a new paradigm, the way that they are addressing, you are addressing the market, the solutions, zero trust, all this kind of SASE, all this kind of new thing, not so new, but new in our market. No? We are very happy to be part of the Zscaler team here in Mexico, but could you talk about the mission of Zscaler?
Yes. So we have as a mission to secure, simplify, and transform the way people do cybersecurity. And Zscaler started as a cloud-native first cybersecurity. So instead of using firewall or hardware equipment, you basically operate like the old telephone systems. Remember, like long time ago, when you want to call someone, you had to call an operator. The operator would do the conversion and plug in the wires. That's what Zscaler does, but in a different way in order to protect. For example, IP addresses poses a major threat because it opens the door for bad guys. And what we do at Zscaler is that we hide the IP addresses, so every time like you as a user wants to connect to Gmail or to another service or to any email address, any email service you want to do, you first connect to Zscaler, and then Zscaler first make sure that you are who you are, that you're trying to access some service that you may be allowed to access, and then it grants the access to that service. So it's like the old telephone operator that makes the connection for you. And that connection is only for that service, no other service.
Okay. This is zero trust.
This is exactly what zero trust is supposed to be.
I can access wherever I am allowed to do it.
Yes.
This is amazing. I think, and talking about the customer side, I think I don't need to install anything.
No, it's very easy to do, and one of the things that drew my attention when I joined Zscaler is like so many customers, they're so happy that I said, okay, that's a very good company. And our CEO, Jay, he's so passionate about the technology and about what he has created, and I'm very happy to be part of the family.
I just met Jay, and really, for me, what's amazing, I think I'm 61, he's 65, and still is working like
Yes.
He was 20 in his 20s. No?
Yes, it is. His energy is like it gives. Even his energy passes energy to us.
Yeah. Yes, it's what I told to one guy. Say this is an example to follow. No,
Yes,
I like
he
it.
is.
I like it because I like to work also. No, digital transformation, Claudionor. Digital transformation has been a buzzword. I don't know. It's everything. No. How can Zscaler help the companies to fulfill their digital transformation?
So you have to understand that I was like, let me tell a little bit of my story, and then you understand Zscaler, how they are aligned. So in 2020, I was working at Google, and the stuff that I did was used by CERN, like the high energy physics stuff, to detect like subatomic particles. And then I was
Higgs boson.
Yeah, that I joke saying that they were basically trying to find the boson of Higgs with what I did, but actually the boson of Higgs was detected before.
Yeah.
But they're doing the same experiments. And after that, we even had a paper that was cover page of Nature magazine. And then I was thinking what I'm going to do next with my life. And then I said, there's a new war coming up. And this is over data. It's not about soldiers, it's not about machine guns and stuff like that, but it's people trying to steal information and trying to steal data from companies, either for ransom, to take like to try to charge money to not release the data or to return the data to you, or even for IP theft. And right now there's another one that attacks in infrastructure. Imagine that if someone attacks the infrastructure of Mexico and they hijack traffic lights, communication, gas, energy, everything, the chaos begins. So, and then I decided that I want to go to cybersecurity. So the digital transformation that Zscaler is doing is basically enabling companies to stay safer and more secure. Because it's not a matter of if there is a war, the matter is when you're going to be attacked.
Yeah. But I think right now we have been attacked every moment.
Yes, the people needs to realize that. It's very interesting because I was talking to a government agency a few months ago, and it was not in the US, and it was in Latin America, and the minister was telling me, oh, this is only something that happens to the US, it will not happen to Latin America, and a few weeks later, they were attacked.
Yeah. Of course, open the eyes of the bad guys, the bad actors, no? This means Zscaler is a cybersecurity company, but in a different way, and it covers all the, from data protection to, I don't know. I imagine that inside the gateway, this is the name, you have firewalls, you have all the technology needed to protect the users, no?
So we run the largest cybersecurity cloud in the world. And yesterday, we just announced that now we process more than 500 billion transactions per day, or 0.5 trillion transactions a day. That was announced yesterday. And to do that, we have to operate our own cybersecurity cloud in a very efficient way. And we have to protect customers' data. So we have data centers in Mexico, we have data centers in Latin America, we have data centers everywhere.
This is POP?
Huh?
You say data center?
Data centers.
The name is POP? Point of presence?
I don't know if the name is POP. Yeah, I don't know. They call data center. The people keep changing the name all the time. We call internally the data centers.
The data centers. It means, of course, here in Mexico there are two, no?
Yeah,
something
in Mexico.
Like 2 or 3. And what you are looking to, when you have this data center or POP or whatever, it's because you need to reduce the latency, no, between the user and you.
Yes, and we need to comply with local laws.
Good.
Yeah, so we make sure that, for example, if your laws of your country requires the data to stay local, then the data center will be there to help you.
Good, thank you. I think it's amazing because for us, but this is in a cloud native approach. You told,
yes.
No? And then when we talk about the cloud, there are one false false feeling of security protection. I don't know. I was talking with one guy and say, no, I'm in the cloud. I don't need security. And I said, no, you need to read completely all your contracts and read more about the shared responsibility. No? What can you tell us about it?
So, yeah, people need to understand that even in the cloud, you have credentials, we have like a lot of assets that people can use. Just to give an example, I learned something fascinating. I learned that some company or some person stole the credentials for a company for the cloud, and they're using the company's assets to mine Bitcoin. This is just to give you like a very simple example. Free money. This one example. But of course, right now, when the cloud came, they promised that before you had to delete the files you're not using because of disk space. The cloud said, You can put everything in the cloud and decide what to do with the data later. So there is tremendous amount of data and important data for companies that are stored in the cloud. So if you can access that information, then you're basically exposing confidential information that you may not want to expose otherwise. For example, a hospital may have like customer data, like the clients, like which disease you had, and stored in a cloud database. And you need to protect those assets. A financial company may have customers, like the bank customers, stored in the cloud, and you need to protect those assets.
How does Zscaler help protect all the cloud workloads?
First of all, we block the IP addresses. Remember, if you don't have IP addresses, then you don't know where to access. Second, we make sure that whoever is accessing those services, they are ensured to have access to those services. If the person cannot access a database with customers or a database with customer data, they will not have a way to access that, even though he's inside the network and inside the Zscaler. He can access some services of the company, but he or she will not be able to access that particular asset. Third, we have something that we call, it's fascinating, it's called honeypots, because honeypots are like fake services or crown jewels that we put somewhere in the company, and we keep monitoring to see if someone tries to attack those crown jewels, because then we know that someone has access internally to the network. So it is fascinating if you think about the number of services and things like that.
And I think I was reading about all the new things that were included, no? Like the SIM, the secure SIM.
Yes.
It's amazing.
It is amazing, and even if you have manufacturing, and if you think about the dangers of manufacturing, and think about that there's a company in the US called Target. There was a breach in Target in 2013. It's documented, and the person who breached the Target because a provider came to fix the AC system, he needed access to the internet, so they gave him access to the internet. His computer was compromised, and from that they basically were able to steal all information. So
this is the supply chain.
This is supply chain. You cannot only work on your company employees anymore. You have to think about providers. You have to think about the whole ecosystem, and that's where Zscaler shines, because they help you protect and give like special access to those customers, to those third parties.
Does Zscaler is a solution only for big companies?
I think that we have like big companies, but I think we have also like some other company sizes that they also benefit from our usage. Yes. We have customer sizes like ranging for all types of companies. Just to give you an idea, 50% of our businesses are international businesses, and we secure like 35% of Forbes 2000 companies. So it's like...
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
I was reading about the success story of CBS, no? What I was impressed with was that CBS has all over the United States one pharmacy it doesn't matter where you are, in 10 miles you can find a CBS. No? It's amazing.
Interesting.
And then they was talking about 400,000 employees, and then it's protected by Zscaler, no? And what I was impressed to is that the time to implementation is very, very small. Why is that?
It's because you don't have to install equipment. We basically look at your services and where you're trying to access, and you basically started making new connections in the network infrastructure without having to install any equipment. So that's the biggest advantage. I was fortunate to participate in a conference about M&A, merger and acquisitions. Yes. And people were basically telling me that with Zscaler, they can do integrations of an acquired company, of a merged company, within days instead of months now.
Amazing. How?
It's because, imagine that you have two companies that are going to be merged. So you have two IT infrastructures, and suppose one is the bigger company. So you can start exposing only the services that the new company needs to access inside our infrastructure, and for Zscaler, it's very easy to do that.
Yes.
So I was fascinated when I was listening and hearing the success stories about this.
Mm-hmm. And then going into your responsibility, artificial intelligence officers, chief artificial intelligence officer. What is your background?
So I did my PhD at Stanford in the 90s in semiconductor, and actually worked in semiconductor for 20 years. Actually, I was the person who brought semiconductor in the industry to Brazil, because I have a company in Brazil that was acquired by Cadence Design Systems. And then after that, I started migrating to artificial intelligence because I thought there is a new wave coming. And this wave is artificial intelligence.
When it was this?
2011, 2014. Wow. So I created in Brazil the first deep learning company that was recently acquired by Bradesco, back 10 years ago. And then I said, I want to surf in that wave. So I started seeing how I could do deep learning and machine learning and deep learning. But you have to understand that what we did at that time was very simple models and large language models like ChatGPT. Yeah. Everyone has used ChatGPT at this time. Changed completely the way we are going to be interacting with technology, with software, with systems. Because I used to give this example. Suppose that you want to order Uber Eats, and you want a gourmet margarita pizza in 20 minutes. If you go to the app of Uber Eats, you have to be going forward and backward until you can find the right restaurant with the right menu, with the right type of pizza, well ranked, and that can deliver a solution for you in 20 minutes.
Okay.
So it's very funny because when I explained that situation, a few people in LinkedIn, from Uber, they connected to me, and now Uber Eats has a button that you can select that can deliver in 20 minutes. You did not used to be able to do that. So how large language models like ChatGPT changes that? I can just write, I want gourmet margarita pizza delivered in 20 minutes. Internally, they understand your intent. Then the large language model, they connect the dots, which systems they have to access to basically to make that request viable. And after they connect the systems, they make the thing run for you without you having to click on anything. That changes dramatically the way people interact with technology, because now technology can understand the way you think instead of requiring you to understand how the software was written.
Yes.
And that's why companies need to go to this digital transformation in AI, because it's changing dramatically. It's 2 years old.
Yeah, this is amazing. I think right now, right now I'm making an app myself. I like to code, but I'm making an app without coding anything. I'm only asking ChatGPT. I'm explaining what I want. I'm explaining everything, and at the end, this morning, I have a code.
Yeah.
Complete code that I can I can connect, and I need to make some design. But this means that if I understand what I want, ChatGPT can translate it to an app. This is amazing, I think.
So usually I say that ChatGPT is good for summarizing data. You have like a long report, financial report from some company or some customer that you want to analyze. It's able to analyze that. It's good for translation. Like you said, I just say, write the code for this. And it makes a few mistakes. So you need a human on the background to actually, and a human who is proficient to understand. It helps you speed up your productivity, but it does not replace you. Okay? And people need to understand that they're still very bad at some tasks. I asked ChatGPT and even GPT-4o1 recently the following question. Suppose that P implies Q, Q implies R is false when it's sunny, and it's false when it's daytime, and it's sunny right now. And so, because if you make the assumption that sunny and day are the same thing, you say it needs to be false. Logically, that's what happened.
Yes.
ChatGPT kept saying that P is false, and then someone from Sweden, they came to me and said, sunny and day is not the same thing in Sweden. Because during the summer, it's still sunny at midnight. So ChatGPT, I had to interact with it several times until it accepted that day and sunny were not the same thing. And that's the limitation of technology, because they are not smart enough to make the connections that we humans, we can do.
This bias?
It's bias. It's not going to give you the right answer if you try to connect main things,
but
major
it's
things.
not going to give me the right answer, but after you teach.
Yes.
Right now,
that's why you need someone who is the way that I see it, it still needs someone who is an expert to understand the answer, to make sure the answer is
human reinforcement. This is kind of
it's my daughter, she is doing like economics at UC Santa Barbara, and she usually tells me like this. So she uses like ChatGPT and U.com to make as her assistant. So when she's going to start her week, she asks the assistant to prepare everything she needs to do for the entire week. And they give her, both technologies, they give her like a schedule day by day on what she needs to do at which time. And the way that I think in the future, we're going to have those personal assistants, which are AI-based, assisting you in day-to-day tasks.
Today, I just installed, this morning, the new notebook AI from Google. It's amazing.
It is.
For education, for my own, I need to understand something. I send a PDF, I don't know, about all the Zscaler solutions, and immediately I can know everything. It answer me, and it help me make more research. It's amazing.
So just to give an idea, I write a lot of blogs and papers at Zscaler, and I'm very perfectionist. And it was taking me a long time to get the paper to the form that I liked. So what I did is that I wrote an agent that helps me writing my blogs and my papers. And the last one that I published on August 8th, if I'm not mistaken, at Zscaler, was 90% written by that assistant.
This is going to change our life. Of course, there are a lot of people who believe still that including this guy who got I think you know him, who wants the Nobel Prize.
Yes, Hinton.
Hinton.
Yeah.
He's still very.
So the way that you have to understand is this: the first telephone, the mobile telephone call in the world happened in 70 or 71 or 2, something like that, in New York. At that time, someone was carrying like a cell phone like this big and was calling somewhere. And at that time, if you went to Madison Square Garden and asked everyone around there, what can you do with a mobile phone? The question that people would say is this: what is a mobile phone? Yeah. Okay? So 50 years later, you can say, oh, it is like mobile phones destroyed the jobs of people who are installing copper in homes. But it created like jobs for people doing apps. It created jobs for people doing like skins and doing all sorts of services around cell phones. So it created a new set of phones and a new set of services and jobs that did not exist before. 2 years ago, if you asked like on the street, I need a prompt engineer. People say, what is a prompt engineer? Now, if you go to a lot of companies, they have prompt engineer jobs. And no school in the world, they graduate people to be prompt engineers. No university. So you can see that new job positions, new opportunities are appearing because of like ChatGPT. So the thing that people get worried, and I'm a member of the World Economic Forum representing Zscaler there, is that no other technology in the world moved so fast. Mobile phone took 50 years to become mainstream. ChatGPT, we're talking about 2 years, and everyone is talking about that. So this is the danger, and people are worried about that, what this technology is going to do in such a small period of time that will not allow people to adapt to the new technology. But I have a say to that. Let me just say, the say to that is this. I did my PhD in semiconductor, and there was no semiconductor in Brazil. I had to create semiconductor in Brazil. I helped create semiconductor in Brazil as it is right now. And then after that, I changed myself to machine learning, and you have to reinvent yourself continuously in the job market. And I always did that because the market changes. What you did 5 years ago is not going to be what you're going to do 5 years from now. So you have to stay ahead and you have to continuously study and see what you're going to be happening with the market next.
Yeah. A lot of people feels that artificial intelligence, they don't feel that they are going to be killed by but a lot of people believes, and some of them was asking me about the future of jobs, especially their jobs. They say, okay, I'm going to lose this job because artificial intelligence is going to destroy my job. What do you think about?
So when I was working at Google, I changed my chair, my seat at Google 4 or 5 times in 3 years. And I never thought about that. I thought why they are changing me like so frequently, so that you don't get too comfortable where you sit. If I could give a piece of advice to any CEO in the market is that don't let someone think that their seat will stay there forever. Keep changing seats.
Wow, I never heard that.
And you do that not to make people feel uncomfortable, but they need to take them off that comfortable zone that their desk is their desk that are going to be seated for the rest of their life. Because when you start taking the seat and make people moving around, they start thinking that they have to move around. They cannot be considering that they're going to be seated in that seat forever, for 30 years of their life.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. And then the way that I answer this question is that you are not, AI is not going to destroy your job. Another guy using AI
will destroy. Yes.
Destroy it.
That as a consequence, what I said is exactly this. If people think that their chair and their desk is there for them for 30 years, they will let someone who is basically reading and following what's going on, they're going to be able to replace him more easily. But if you are aware of what's going with the market during your career, then you're going to be adjusting and make yourself like, let's call it employable in the future. Companies do not fire people who are employable. Right. Because they know that those people are will always be in high demand.
Mm-hmm. And how is Zscaler using AI?
So, as I said in the beginning, we process 0.5 trillion transactions a day. So since the beginning...
I like to get this information to train my LLM.
So because of that, even before I joined, Zscaler was already like a heavy user of AI, because there's no way you can we protect 500 billion transactions a day if you do not have assistance from AI. What we have changed is that we're more aggressively using AI. For example, we use AI when you try to identify if the user is really the user. We use AI to identify the access patterns to see you're trying to do something that is risky for the company right now because we are trying to access sites more frequently that you should not be accessing. Mm-hmm. Breach prediction. If you want to check if there is a breach prediction going on inside the company, we heavily use AI. And we have a product that is very cool that is called ZDX, Digital Experience. And if you look at on LinkedIn, in Zscaler, you're going to see that we detected some outages before the companies detected the outages. In ZDX, for example, if you are a user of, as a company, you are a user of Zscaler solution, and if you see a user that is having a performance problem or a problem, then ZDX helps you identify where is the source of the problem. Mm-hmm. And we use heavily AI for that. Recently, we started using a copilot to do that. And in my life, this is the 4th copilot I have built in my life. And this copilot helps you identify the problem. Instead of having to point and click in the user interface, you can just start typing what is the problem that you're having. And then the solution basically guides you, showing like the UI aspects and showing like graphs and giving tables and all the information that you need to solve the problem without you having to learn how to use the UI.
Yes. Sam, I think And what about data protection?
Data protection is actually a very interesting case because if you have types of documents in your company that you want to protect, for example, if you have legal documents that you do not want to leak out, we can use that you can use AI to detect if that document is a sensitive document or not. And you should not be attaching that document on your email or even send to ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. ChatGPT is very interesting because a lot of companies that I have been talking to, they say they block completely ChatGPT, but you have to understand that's not the right solution. The right solution is to allow and to monitor. And we have a solution to help you monitor large language models or generative AI applications. And by monitor, I mean we check who is using the solution, and we even check what is the prompt. And if you are sending confidential information in the prompt, we can block that confidential information from being sent to ChatGPT or to another LLM.
It's a new kind of DLP, no?
It's a new kind of DLP, and it's a new world. It's a new kind of solution.
Yes. I imagine to classify, the only way to protect the information is to classify it. And you are telling me that the way to classify it is using an LLM.
Yeah, we have several ways. LLM is one of them. You have to understand that sometimes LLMs can be expensive. I was watching, so we try to be energy conscious, and we try to use the right solution for the right task. I was watching a presentation by a researcher, a fellow from IBM a few weeks ago, actually, and he was saying that the demand for large language models, training those large language models is so high that in 15 years we may reach a point that if you take all the sunlight, this was a presentation that is on YouTube, by the way. Mm-hmm. If you accumulate all the energy from the sun that hits the earth, that would not be enough to train the large language model in 15 years.
Wow. This includes the small LLMs.
I think he was talking more about the large ones because the large ones consume a tremendous amount of energy. I was in Cusco in 2017 actually in 2018 when I was still at Google, and I was a keynote speaker for a semiconductor conference there. At the time, the models were like 217 million parameters, and I did a calculation about how much it was to train 25 models at that time. And it was the same energy carbon footprint of burning the Amazon forest, all the fires in the Amazon forest for one day. So just to give you an idea, the models right now, they're 1,000 times bigger than those models. And the amount of energy that it needs to train those models is not linear. So it's not just 1,000 times more.
It's quadratic.
It's quadratic, or at least 1.5. Uh-huh. And because of that, it's polynomial. But because of that, what you can assume is that the energy that, imagine, I'm talking about 25 of those models, one day of the Amazon forest. So, of the fires in the entire Amazon forest. That includes Peru, that includes everything. So you can imagine that right now we can talk about the fires in the entire Amazon forest for several months in terms of carbon footprint just to train one of those large language models. Wow. We're talking about today, not in 2040.
This is why NVIDIA has a big value, no?
Yes, that's why they have a big value. A lot of people, they need to use NVIDIA GPUs to train those large language models, and NVIDIA has been able to capitalize on that quite well.
I think we are talking about Zscaler, but taking advantage that you are an expert of semiconductor and also in artificial intelligence. Right now, NVIDIA is the indisputable leader in all the GPUs. I don't know, is NPUs also? No, I don't know. But GPUs, and do you see new companies competing in that space?
So you have to understand, so the way that I was the VP of a company in 2017 that was trying to do inference hardware for machines, and at that time, I had a very good experience talking to cloud providers. And the way that I see it is still the same thing, but with the change that LLMs are here now. But one of the cloud providers back then told us like this. Number one, those servers with GPU, they have a lifetime. And the lifetime is not very long. Because every year there's a new version of the GPU, and then once we release the new version, the older GPU, we have to sell, we have to give it for free, not for free, but cheaper to the customers. It cannot be the same price that we practiced last year. Okay? So the lifetime of those machines, they go down quite rapidly. And people need to repurpose those machines. So the machines from NVIDIA, and I would put in the same token AMD too, they can be used for other applications.
Only for?
They can be used for video compression, they can be used for other applications. They can.
Okay.
If you talk about those specialized hardware, they usually can only be used for LLMs and for something like that. And with those machines becoming obsolete quite fast because of the new technology and new chips that NVIDIA releases every year, then that basically poses like a challenge for those companies making chips that can only do large language models or deep learning. Having said that, the demand for large language models changed a little bit the dynamics from what the market was in 2017, because now I may need a very top-of-the-line machine to train my LLM, but to do inference, I can use the cheaper machines. Okay. So right now they have been able to say, to train, you're going to use the latest generation, but 2 generations back you can use the other machines to do inference. So that changes the dynamic of what I said a little bit, but there's still the issue of the machines become obsolete at some point, and we're not talking about 5 years or 10 years, we're talking about a few, 2-3 years, 4 years at most. And what do you do with those machines after this time? And that's one of the things that makes NVIDIA and AMD is still like to have a sweet spot, because they can be used for other stuff, other than just machine learning or deep learning.
Maybe this could be a good business, find a way to use this.
Yeah, that is.
And then, oh no, this is amazing. This is amazing. I think, I don't know, ChatGPT or OpenAI is, the mission is to create an AGI. What do you think? It is really reachable in the near future?
So I worked for 20 years of my life in semiconductor in formal verification, which is in chip design. You want to know if the chip has a bug. Instead of simulating,
okay,
I would prove mathematically. I would create a mathematical formula that represents the chip or a part of the chip, and I would prove that that chip does not have a bug, that part of the design. So for that type of technology that you need reasoning implies logic reasoning.
Yeah.
LLMs, I don't think LLMs can do very strong reasoning tasks. They're not going to be able to do that, okay? But if you combine LLMs with reasoning agents,
okay,
now we are talking about something extremely powerful, okay? So I'll give an example. I was talking recently, and this is also on my one of my blogs on LinkedIn. Suppose that you want to write test code.
We're going to put in the footnote with this information,
okay,
for everybody to see this.
Suppose that you want to write something to test the app that you just said that you write. And suppose that there is a line of code that is never reachable, because the LLM, when it told you to generate that line of code, there is an if then else or some conditional, and that condition never triggers like one of the statements.
Okay.
If you ask an LLM to generate code that is going to go there, the LLM will always try to fake some condition to say that condition can hit that line.
Okay.
But if you use a proof engine to show that you cannot reach that line, and you feed that information to an LLM, that's when the world starts basically becoming more beautiful, because you're using LLMs for what LLMs are good for, which is summarization, translation, and generating text, and using formal engines to do reasoning, because it's a proof. It's a logical system that can do proof. And they can exchange information between themselves, and now you have some system that can perform very good and very powerful systems. And I think eventually people will realize for AGI and for this type of application, they will need to have agents that have reasoning capability to assist the LLM.
Specialist.
Yes, it's a specialist. So, for example, I mentioned to you that I wrote an agent that writes papers, the blogs for me. And I have several pieces. One of the pieces that suggests titles for your paper. You gave a suggestion, and it basically says, well, you said this title here, but if you use this other title, people are going to get more curious about your blog, and they may want to read it up front. And then I have another agent inside my system that basically writes the topic sentences for you. Just like when you're like a college student, you learn how to write papers. First divide the sections of your document and then write topic sentence, and then you write the paragraphs. Yeah. And I have another agent that expands the topic sentence into paragraphs. And finally, I have another agent that reviews the entire paper and see what's wrong and recommends changes to you. And then the process repeats several times until it gets the paper done.
This means that multi-agents is the future of that. I saw one application where this guy is programming a lot, but he has an agent who is the boss, all the supervisors report to him, and all the programmers report to the supervisors. The supervisors analyze the work and then send it at the end. It's amazing. I think
it is. So think about the evolution of technology. I gave a presentation yesterday to you guys, and I said, when ChatGPT was out, and I even joke like the millennials or the next generation of people, they will call BC and AC before ChatGPT and after ChatGPT. So generation 1 was just an LLM, which is what ChatGPT released in November 2022. Now, if you think about last year, people realized that, and earlier this year, people realized that ChatGPT was bad at math. So they put a math agent. Yeah. So when you ask ChatGPT to do multiplication, it's not doing the multiplication. It's actually invoking like a tool that does math for it. Because it knows that
math specialist.
There is a math specialist.
And maybe this math specialist has another one for more complex...
Yes. Okay. So now what we're talking about is, this is like a single agent system. Now we're talking about, even when you're going to write a paper, you yourself needs to wear several hats. One hat is reviewer. The other hat is basically writing the topic sentence. The other hat is basically seeing the overall structure of the paper to see if it's coherent. And now you can have a multi-agent system where each piece, instead of writing one monolithic prompt to say solve this, you can have one prompt for the reviewer, one prompt for the writing the topic sentence, another one for the reviewing the titles, and even you may call different LLMs. You may not call one only OpenAI, but you may be calling Llama. You can call several different ones, and maybe using cheaper ones for simpler tasks and using more complex ones for more complex tasks. So this is like a multi-agent system. Now, what we're going to start seeing end of this year, next year, is like a multi-agent systems that may even be distributed, like in different places. Suppose that you have your assistant.
Like a blockchain.
Like a blockchain. But suppose you have your assistant, personal, which is like an agent. And suppose that you're not feeling well, so you basically call your assistant and say, I'm not feeling well, I'm having like some pain here on the stomach, can you tell me what's going on? And that agent connects to the agent of like several doctors, and they start negotiating with several doctors what you should do next. And at some point, the agents for some doctors may decide to say, we need to do an endoscopy, or you need to do like ultrasound. It starts negotiating with agents from the hospital what to do. So now your agent can start basically going back to you and say, okay, this doctor basically told you that it's good for you to go to a hospital, do an ultrasound, and there's an ultrasound available at this hospital today at 3 p.m. Do you want to book that? Yeah. And this is where we are going with the technology.
It's amazing. And then, but when we talk about agents, we are talking about LLMs also, no?
Yes, the agents have LLMs. So you talk in natural language, and the agents communicate with other agents using natural language. So they negotiate in everything in natural language. They do the negotiation in natural language, and then they start making decisions about natural language. And one of the beauty of this is that your agent is able to see all the information, complete information from you, but it's going to share with the other agent only the information that it's allowed to share for that specific task. So there's data protection embedded into this architecture.
I always like to talk about the future. And we were talking about AGI. AGI, this mean it could be feasible in the, I don't know. I don't know. A lot of predictions are that by 2030 we're going to have but comparing this with the, I forgot the name of the guy who the father, Hinton. He sometimes said that he don't want to have an AI who is smarter than the human.
Yeah, that I think before that people may actually, I'll give an example. Suppose that we start saying to extend our lives, we can do implant or we can change our DNA or do something like that. And to do that, the amount of data is so large that you can even use, remember, LLMs are good for summarizing and analyzing data. You could use and analyze data and say, we have to fix some genes in you in the future, and to do that, we have an agent that is going to be doing that to make sure that you can live longer. And I think this is where we're going to be interacting more and more with agents, with those types of systems. Those systems are going to get better. People are going to realize they cannot rely on the LLM for everything. So when they say that you interact with an LLM, it's not an LLM. It's a full multi-agent system with different software pieces that can do that. And those systems will become more and more intelligent.
What do you think about the Skynet?
We need to have safeguards to turn off those systems at some point, right?
A lot of people, I don't know, some Elon Musk, Wozniak, they were, I don't know, 3 years ago speaking about we need to stop the development for some time until we have some, where I said, it's not going to happen. The governments are not going to allow that because it's a competition between, in this case, China and the United States are competing against each other, and in which are better at that, because it could be an arm,
Yeah, the way that I think is that the AIs are here to help us, okay? And they are here to make us better humans in what we do. Of course, we always have to worry about some other people. They may be deciding to do something that may harm us, and that's why I decided to go to cybersecurity, just to make sure that we basically block this information, block IP theft, like intellectual property theft. Yeah. We block people trying to attack infrastructure. As I mentioned, what happens if someone uses technology to do that? And to tell you the truth, even LLMs right now, people are using LLMs for deep fakes. They're using LLMs for dark LLMs that can basically try to attack you. And I joke saying, in 2000, I used to receive emails from the Prince of Nigeria. Everyone got one of those emails in their lifetimes.
They have $100 million for you.
Yes. And you have to understand that the last Prince of Nigeria email that I got was very credible. And I actually fell for it. And I'm usually very, I don't answer any phones that I don't know the number. I don't open anything. But the email was like this. We just gotten, this is for a previous company, one of the previous companies that I have worked for. The email was like this. We checked that this file on the company private cloud has this size and this content, and this file violates our privacy content. And I went to our private cloud, my files. The file was there. It was exactly as it said. And then it says, you need to remove this file, or you need to discuss this with IT. This is the IT number. I checked the number. It was a real IT number. And as usual IT numbers, you call them, it's busy. You can't. Okay. So there was a last sentence that says, if you want to know what is the private clause that you're violating, click here. So 95% of the email was correct, with correct information about the company. So what do you do next? You believe the email, and you click. It was going to Russia.
Yeah.
So This shows you that how Prince of Nigeria phishing emails, they have evolved with the adoption of more sophisticated systems, usually using LLMs and usually using those systems to make better attacks to us.
It's amazing. I think this is one of the big question for us, no? How can we protect against the artificial intelligence generated attacks? Of course, we need to do it with artificial intelligence.
Yes, Jay has a quote that I always like to say is that we need to fight AI with AI.
Yeah. Maybe I copy from him. We can continue speaking because you know a lot, and I like to learn every day, but the time is over, and I think I only left to thank you for the opportunity. Okay. Thank you for your presentation yesterday, and thank you for all of this information that I think my dealers and the guys who are seeing this video are going to learn a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so
and
much.
I'm very glad. Thank you for the invitation to come here and to be here today.
Muito obrigado, Claudio.
De nada.
Amigos, muchísimas gracias. Espero les sirva, espero que se emocionen tanto como nos emocionamos nosotros. La verdad es que falta mucho y digo, en una hora no podemos, 50 minutos no podemos más que emocionarnos y que se nos abran las puertas para seguir aprendiendo. Yo creo que Claudionor es un gran exponente por todo lo que nos como persona de toda esta experiencia, tanto en semiconductores como en Artificial Intelligence y luego, bueno, trabajar para Zscaler, me imagino que también debe ser emocionante. Sí. Muchísimas gracias, amigos. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.